off camera, so you won't be able to see me any longer, but I'm gonna swap and turn on my presentation. So hang tight for just 1 second. I'm turning my camera off, and then I'm gonna go ahead and bring my presentation up. So always as a reminder, if you have questions today, if you want to know more information about a particular area, concern, or problem, my chat room is being manned by some of my favorite people, my co-workers, my cohorts, my partners in crime, and my fellow puppy development coordinators. So in the chat room, I know that Laura Fisher is there, VJ Joshi, um, and Barry Lynn Wood. Sorry, guys, you have my email. No one wants my email, but you do want my presentation. So let me get that up and running. There we go. Okay, how's that? Looks like we are officially up and running. So welcome to the third installment in a series that I have been working on over the last couple of months. And these are our puppy raiser timelines. And we're all going to be talking about week number 3 in this series. So, of course, I wanted to take some time just to mention that Premier Pet Supplies is a pet retailer that is really close to Leader Dog. It's in the Metro Detroit area, and they have multiple locations. One is literally right down the street from Leader Dog. They sell food and all of your puppy raising supplies that are needed. And they're really awesome no matter where you are located in the United States. As long as you are a volunteer or a puppy raiser, then you're able to get a discount from them. And they offer a 20% discount. So even if you live out of town, as you are coming and going from picking up your puppies and dropping them off, make sure you stop in and purchase some products from them. Their discounts even includes food, so it's pretty awesome. And you'll see on the icon in the lower right hand corner of your screen shows some of their locations, and they are growing every single day. So if you guys are not familiar with me, my name is Melissa Raymond, and I'm one of the puppy development coordinators. And I want to go ahead and get started with this series. Again, like I said, this is the third installment. I've actually done 2 other pieces, and you can find them all on our virtual training YouTube page. So we have a YouTube page that is accessed strictly by a link. If you received the email invite today to attend today's session, at the very bottom, you're going to see a link that brings you to this library. So if you're not really sure how to access it, talk to your puppy counselor, talk to one of your puppy development coordinators, or find that email that was sent out to invite you to today's session, because the link is available at the bottom of that email. And it brings you actually to our entire library of online programs that we have offered all of our coordinators. I have already done one on before you bring home a puppy and what the expectations are in week 1. Most recently, I did one on the second week of the puppy timeline when your puppy's about 8 weeks old. And now we're going to be jumping into the third week of having your puppy, or what's happening right around the time that your puppy is 9 weeks old. So lots to cover here. What you are probably going to find if you have been around for that last presentation, week 2, there are a lot of of similarities. Of course, your puppy is growing pretty rapidly. They're maturing with every moment in time, and but many of their skills and much of what is going on in their life is very, very similar. So some things that we are going to cover today and some of the expectations that we have as as a puppy raiser are some of these behaviors are very typical obedience behaviors. So sit is one of those behaviors that we call a default behavior. Our puppies in many ways become accustomed. Oh, my apologies, I went backwards. Our puppies become accustomed to offering this particular behavior, and it starts right in the host home. So when they're still with mom in the host home, they actually start learning this behavior. They learn to offer a sit, not because they're told the word or they are asked to offer it, but they learn to offer it strictly on their own. It's a natural behavior, and it's a nice way of saying, please, I would like something. So we ask our puppies to actually sit before they get picked up, sit before they get to eat their meal, so on and so forth. So it's a really nice way of saying please. And it's an expectation that we hope that you can continue with as the puppy raiser. So they are likely going to be pre-programmed by the time they come home to you at 7 weeks of age. And it's something that we want you to keep on going with. So practice definitely with that sit behavior. Of course, some of our other obedience behaviors include down, stand, come, and recall. Of course, with a collar touch, which is really what makes it that come behavior, stay and recognition. So for our standard obedience behaviors, such as sit down and stand, all of those have a time expectation. And I'm going to give you guys a fun little quiz question, so not a hard one. If you look in the manual and if you look to our IFT standards or our N for training standards that says your pup is pretty skilled and they are ready to come back and start training at Leader Dog, what is the length of time or the duration that we ask our puppies to be able to hold one of these obedience positions, such as sit, down, and stand? So let me know in the chat room. You can just type it in and let me know what your thoughts are. If you know what our ideal is, I will give you a hint. It is a range of time. So there's not just one set period of duration, but there's actually a reference range that we go back to. So let me know what that is. And these are all part of the behaviors that you're going to be starting to teach during this phrase. Sounds like somebody may have their microphone unmuted. Make sure if you can take a look at your devices for me. Make sure that you have a slash going through that microphone, and that just assures that you're muted so that we don't get any background noise. So during this 9-week of age stage, these are the times that you're really going to be teaching these behaviors, all of these behaviors that you see on the screen. And I make sure that the vast majority of what I'm doing is in heel position. Heel position, of course, takes place on the left side of the handler. What tends to happen, especially for new puppy raisers or individuals that have not raised a guide dog before or a service dog, is that we tend to treat or train right in the front of our body so that the dogs and ourselves are looking at each other. But instead, what we actually prefer is that you start practicing everything from the left side of your body. So teach them to sit automatically on the left side, teach down and teach stand right there on the left side. That's going to help you immensely in the long run because that's where we want them to go most often. Dogs are always going to go where they get the treats fed most frequently. And so if we feed them in the front of our body, they're going to want to go back to the front of our body. If we feed them on our left side, they're going to want to go to our left side. So I don't think, hopefully my chat room is updated. No one answered my quiz question of the amount of duration that we have an expectation for sit down and stand. And the amount of duration that we expect by the time your dog returns for training is about 30 to 60 seconds. That is our goal. We want them to be able to hold one of those obedience positions without changing, without melting for about 30 to 60 seconds. All right. So when we talk about obedience behaviors and we talk about really any behavior, there is a magic word that we use. And the word that we use to identify the behaviors that we love, we want to see more of, and we want our puppies to keep on offering, of course, is our marker word, and that's yes. And we say that with a little bit of enthusiasm. We want to make sure that we say it in a neutral tone of voice, something that we can maintain consistency with, but I want a little spark and a little bit of happiness behind the time that you're saying it. So when you are able to get your puppy in desirable positions, just as sit down or stand, maybe if you are working on a targeting exercise and they're touching your hand, right when that behavior is achieved, you see exactly what you want and you get it, I want you to make sure that you're using your yes marker word. And one important point to keep in mind is the sequence in which you are using this word. You want to make sure when you say yes, that your hand is empty of treats so that you're not holding any treats in your hand, and your hand is also not in your treat bag. Those are two kind of expert level tips that are really hard to sometimes improve in ourselves. Everybody does it. So that's something that I just wanted to tell you up front. It can be a tricky thing to make sure that you are not doing. Just very naturally, we are accustomed to keeping our hands in our treat bags because we want to be ready. We want to be speedy and deliver our treats very quickly, but it will actually give us better behavior in the long run if we keep our hands free of treats and our hand is not resting in our treat bag at the time that we are saying yes. And one of the things that allows us is that it allows us to actually teach without the presence of treats in the long run. So for a long time, we're going to be treating our dogs in training, definitely until they become master learners. We're going to continue to reward them for all of their desirable behaviors. But what I want to avoid is that down the road you say, Melissa, my dog only behaves if I have treats in my hand. And a lot of times, if we are holding treats in our hand when we're teaching behaviors, or we're keeping our hand in our treat bag when we're asking our dog to perform a behavior, dogs will start to learn to only associate doing behaviors when that treat is upfront and ready. And so that's kind of one of those pro tips, if I can give you, is really watch the sequence that you're doing and the placement of your treats. So some other things to think about, of course, is your park routine. And probably around this period of time, you might start to have some pro level parking dogs. So you let them outside and you notice that they are immediately accustomed to going onto the grass and that they are offering parking right away, which is absolutely excellent. That's exactly what we want them to do. But what is likely to happen right around this time is that our puppy's world is going to start to expand, and they're going to start to see leaves blowing and different smells in the grass, and kind of depending on what season it is outside, what's going on in the world. When your puppy's about 9 weeks of age, they may all of a sudden start noticing blowing leaves or fresh grass coming in or blooms on the flowers, and all of a sudden their ability to focus and run out to the grass and start parking right away is lost. They start to show interest in other behaviors and they maybe want to explore a little bit more. And that's just not you. That's just not your puppy. It's all puppies, and it's a normal, extremely normal behavior that we kind of expect to see at this point. That being said, we want to do some things to help combat that and help regain their focus. I really like to make sure that my trips outside are very business-like, that I go out there with a mission. Often I am taking my dog out, even if I have a fenced yard, I'm taking them out on a leash so that they learn how to park. They get busy, they do their business, and right when they're done doing their business, and I'm confident that they're fully done, I take them off leash and I let them explore. That way I know that the important piece is out of the way and they're not going to get distracted by eating grass and pulling sticks and grabbing mulch and things like that. Of course, inside the home, one of your keys to success is always going to be frequency and supervision. So the more frequent that you can get your puppy outside, the better it's going to make them at not having elimination accidents inside. Just because they're parking outside regularly does not mean that they are necessarily house trained and won't eliminate in their house. So make sure that you are supervising them. Only give them a small area of real estate in your home. I wouldn't give them an entire room or entire home of freedom. I would isolate the area that they're in using gates and crates and barriers and things like that, so that you know that they are not likely to slip off behind a closed door or slip off behind a couch and eliminate there. And we want to make sure that we are getting them out frequently, always to have that opportunity to fully park. Now, some puppies will urinate, they get distracted, they go do something else, and when we let them inside, they'll actually defecate inside. And that's just because they haven't fully finished everything outside. So you want to make sure that you take the time and let them do everything, let them thoroughly complete their job. We also want to make sure that they are comfortable with parking on different surfaces. And as they are baby puppies and they're exploring new things, this is really the time to familiarize them with that. So I make sure that they are comfortable parking them on grass, not only grass, but on pea gravel, on dirt, on concrete, different textures. Not everyone's lifestyle as a guide dog user or a client is going to be exactly the same. If you live in downtown New York City, grass is at a premium, and so dogs may not have very many opportunities to park on grass. They may only have AstroTurf or sidewalks or gravel. So we really want our puppies to be comfortable with that. Um, I also want to make sure that our puppies, like I mentioned, are really comfortable with eliminating on leash. Most puppies, I'd say 90 to 100% of them, dogs in general, are really comfortable with going off leash, just being let out in a yard. But the key and what is likely going to happen as their life as a leader dog, they're going to need to learn how to eliminate and be comfortable with somebody standing right there as they're going and parking on a leash. And so we really want them to be comfortable with parking on a leash. Looks like we have some questions. So Mary Haddis is asking, do you work at asking to go out to park at this age at all? It depends on the puppy. That's a good question, Mary. So some puppies will get the hang of it. Some of them will start standing by the door or trying to give you a signal. Some are better at signaling than others. I don't necessarily ask for a prompt. I know my own personal dog, you guys always hear me talk about my Rhodesian Ridgeback puppy. She learned really early on to scratch on the door. And so when she needed to go out, she would whack the door. She still does it to this day. She's about a year and a half now. Now it's a little bit more obnoxious because she's kind of punching the door, but it gets my attention and we're able to let her out pretty quickly. Right now, I'm associating the word with the behavior that I want. So that's really my goal. When I go outside with them and I see that they're about to do their business, I can tell that they're going to get in the position and it's about to happen, then I typically use my word, go park, and that starts to build the cue, which is park, with the behavior, which is eliminating at the same time. Looks like Jody has a question as well. She says, when you take the pup out to park and they get distracted, tips on getting them refocused. Yeah, so I will find a location again. Jody, I keep them on a leash and I'm right there with them. I find a location in my yard that's kind of boring. And for some of us, that means maybe the backyard is too interesting with lots of fun things. So maybe I go in the front yard or a side yard of my house where there are less things to get distracted by. I extend my leash and make it long, and I stand there like a statue. They truly have the length of the leash to find the spot that they want to use, but I don't necessarily walk to every location that they want to sniff. I wait for them to actually do their business first. I also make sure that I'm not making a big deal unless it's really, really unsafe. I should say that. But if they are grabbing things like um, shriveled up leaves or grass with their mouth. I don't make a big to do about it. I'm not grabbing that and taking that back out of their mouth because, again, that's distracting from what they need to do. And it's actually rewarding that behavior instead of squashing it. And so I don't really focus on that. I just try to wait them out and reward them. Also, when I go back inside and they haven't gone, I put them right in their crate so that I know it's likely going to be in my favor the next time I take them back out. They're really going to have to go. Their bladder is going to be full. So it's most likely the first thing that they're going to want to do when they go back outside. Good question. So some more things. I don't know why it keeps jumping forward, guys. I'm sorry. Some more things that we expect at this period of time is those darn teeth. Look at this puppy. Look how cute it is. They are cute for this at the stage for a reason because those teeth are sharp like razors. We've all been there. I'm pretty sure we could all congregate and talk about our puppy biting stories. It can be very, very miserable at this stage. Stay the course. I would be a rich woman if I could give some really, really great advice against biting. Some of it has to do with maturity and learning. Some of it has to do with normal puppy behavior and exploring with our mouths, especially for the breeds that we use. They're very oral breeds. Having something in their mouth is very normal to them, and that's how they explore the world and they learn what to do, what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And so some of it we have to just let them mature out of, but some of it is how we interact with them as well. You're probably going to notice during this time that there's going to be a lot of grabbing at hands and clothing and probably more. I disengage very quickly and I withdraw my attention. So if I have a puppy that's starting to get really mouthy, I think about what may be going on in their mind. Are they tired? Are they overly tired? Do they need some sort of oral need? Again, chewing on something, mouthing on something does give them an outlet and a sensation. So if they start mouthing me, I may walk away. I just withdraw my attention. I promptly go away for a second or two. But then I come back right with something that they can play with that's appropriate, like a Kong, a nice soft rubbery puppy toy that's appropriate for them to have. Nylabone makes some of the softer puppy toys that they can sink those little needles into and feel really good. A lot of people use the large frozen carrots as a nice treat for them to gnaw on at this point. All of those are absolutely appropriate tools to reach for when you need to. I also make sure that I don't allow mouthing. So I really have a zero tolerance for mouthing. And at this stage, so at this 7, 8, 9 week old mark, sometimes our tolerance is a little bit less, or I'm sorry, a little bit more because they are so cute when they're doing it. So they may start to kind of suckle our fingers or start to mouth our fingers, and it doesn't hurt that much. And they're so cute. I tell you guys, I don't allow that, even when it's cute and it's not bothering me, because I don't allow behaviors that I wouldn't allow a 70-pound dog to happen when they are 7 pounds or 20 pounds. So I just make it a no off the bat. I don't do games that are playing with their mouth or putting my fingers in the mouth or even allowing them to bow down my fingers very gently. That's a no-go for me. I also avoid playing with their face because it's almost always a trigger for for mouthy, bitey behavior. So stroking their mouth around their mouth and their eyes, especially when they're kind of wound tight and they're busy and they want to go. Um, Petting around their face is almost always going to stimulate some mouthing. And so I try not to play any sort of face games like that. If you are doing something and you're petting your puppy and it actually starts to stimulate mouthing, um, then I make sure that I stop petting immediately. Too often I see that a puppy starts biting and a puppy raiser will say, see, he's biting me and I just want to try to pet him. I think that we do need to be respectful of the puppies. Perhaps they don't want to be petted at that moment. Maybe some of that biting and that mouthing is information that says, I don't want this interaction. This is not appropriate to do. And so you back away and you stop petting. So that's a reminder for ourselves as well. And also, of course, keep the public and other people safe from your puppy and their little needly teeth. Do not allow other puppies to, other people to get or petting during peak time. So if we know that the puppies are really mouthy, if they're getting overly tired, somebody wants to greet them, but you don't want to necessarily encourage that behavior, then just say, I'm sorry, now's not a good time to pet. My puppy's really teething and I don't want him to bite. I'm not allowed to have leader dog. Leader dog says I'm not allowed to have him mouth people. You're always going to get those people that say, I don't mind being bitten or mouthed. And you can put it back on us saying, well, it's not something that my puppy is allowed to offer and they're not allowed to perform. So Mary, your question is about learning bite inhibition. What are your thoughts? What are you hoping, just so that I understand what direction you want me to go in?
I just curious how much you let that go so that they learn it, I guess.
Yeah, so I think
especially
that
without another dog in the house.
I don't know. This is a tricky one. I think if you interviewed 10 different people in behavior and training world, you're probably going to get some different answers. So it might not be the best forum to talk about this. So I would say bite inhibition or learning what is appropriate for puppies to mouth and how hard to use their teeth is something that typically happens when they are with their litter mates and with mom. So as they are interacting with adult dogs that are appropriate and with their litter mates, they typically learn what is appropriate and what's not appropriate. If I try to mouth on my litter mate, if I try to bite them and I get too rowdy, they stop playing and they just simply walk away. And so that's one of the best lessons to be learned, especially if it's communicated by another dog. I think it's really hard for us as people to communicate it as effectively as it is for another dog to actually communicate that. So that's one of my kind of sticking points. We often get that question, what can I do as the person? And that goes into that kind of crossover. If we grab a puppy's mouth or roll their gums in to allow them to bite themselves, things like that. Are those behaviors appropriate? And I haven't found any of those to be beneficial. Sometimes having another dog in their home can help with bite inhibition and teaching and learning. Um, but there's a very fine line. There's always this little line that we cross because we want to make sure that we keep our other dogs in the home safe from those interactions. We don't want them to be a chew toy, and we also don't want them to be overly assertive where we can scare our puppy or cause other harm. So it's something that we walk a really thin line. So we could literally have our own conversation on biting. But I want to make sure that I refer you back to our virtual training sessions library. Biting has been done by my cohorts already, and there's some wonderful videos on biting. So make sure that you go back to our virtual training session library and check those out as well for some more information. So some other things that we want to talk about during this time frame, of course, is our puppies going to their crates. And it's something that we really want them to be magnetized. And we're going to talk about them being magnetized to a mat later on. But I also want them to be magnetized to their crate. I want them to love going to their crate. And we use our crate in lots of different ways. So our crates may be used during times of just needing to settle. They may be used during times that we can't supervise them. We're in the shower, we're cooking dinner, we need them in their crate. Maybe they're eating dinner in their crate. Maybe we are busy working on a project and we need some separation, or maybe this is just a behavior that we want to familiarize them with and we want them to be comfortable in this environment. So I like to play lots of different games with my puppies in their crates. So I will get my puppies kind of excited and I will toss a couple of kibbles or a couple of treats in their crate and just practicing the game of going inside of their crate and allowing them to come right back again, or come back out again. I change up the times that they are going in their crate and how long they're going to stay. Sometimes it's a long stay. I may be doing grocery shopping and I need to leave the house. Sometimes it's a short period and I might just be eating dinner. I also try to make sure that I am pairing their time in their crate with something really good. So I put some fun toys in there. Often I give them a Kong or something else to chew on. Of course, any items that are going to be left unsupervised with the puppy, I want to know how they interact with them in advance so that I know that they're not likely to chew off a piece. It's something that is nice and sturdy, that's not going to cause any sort of harm, not any sort of choking hazard, things like that. I also make sure that my crate is in a couple of different areas. So I like to kind of play around with the location of my crate, and my crates are not always permanently set in one location. I try to make sure that my puppies are comfortable being in a crate when I'm home and in the same room. And sometimes they're comfortable just when I'm gone and I'm completely gone from the house, or they're in the crate and I'm in another room and they can't see me. All of those things are going to help them as adult dogs to become more comfortable with being kenneled. Of course, when they come back to Leader Dog and they're on our campus, they're not in a small crate like the crate that you see on the screen, but they are in large kennels, and we want them to be very comfortable resting in there as people are coming and going, and there's going to be chaos around them. All right. So some of the other things that we talk about is those impulse control behaviors and what is an appropriate desirable behavior. So we already hit on this just a little bit ago. We talked about sitting to say please, and that being a behavior that we start in our host homes. This is a behavior that we try, emphasis on the word try, and wait for our puppies to offer on their own. This is really where the learning starts to happen on puppies making good decisions on their own without necessarily being prompted or told what to do. If they start to realize that if I put my butt down on the ground and I keep it there, I'm going to get more attention than when I'm bouncing around like a little bean, then it's going to be a behavior that they're going to offer more frequently. Now, sometimes when there are baby puppies, again, just like the mouthing, we let them get away with things that we probably wouldn't let an older dog get away with. And so I actually started immediately. Once I get the puppy home, I start training these behaviors and I have the same expectation. When you are sitting, you get petted, you get treats, you get lots of attention. If you are jumping around and you're trying to mouth out my clothes, I turn myself off. I look away and I just kind of tune you out. And I want to reward the behaviors that I like. And I ignore the behaviors to a point that I don't like. Now, of course, if you're in harm's way and your clothes are getting shredded, maybe that's not the time to ignore them. Maybe that's the time just to completely walk away. So again, I'm waiting for those puppies to offer that behavior on their own. Sometimes I do need to prompt it to get it to happen, but as much as possible, I want to wait to see, is it in there? Is it in their wheelhouse? Can they offer that behavior? And that has been taught when they were with their host home. Same thing with people in the public. If people are asking you to pet your puppy, especially at this stage in life, they're extremely cute. Just tell them what the rules are. Definitely, you can pet them, but their bottoms need to stay on the ground. And if they start to mouth or their bottoms get off the ground, I need you to walk away from my puppy. Something along those lines. So let's talk about some leash behaviors and some leash expectations as well. Again, don't wait to start this behavior. Start it right away. Often, a little bit of pulling at the stage and exploring, we let go because our puppies are small. They're not dragging us at this point. But I don't want them to start practicing this now so that they're really good at it at 70 pounds. I do want them to start walking on a loose leash right away. So keep our walks short and successful. I make sure that I go in places that I know that they're not going to be overly distracted in. And at this age, everything's a distraction. So I may choose my locations that I'm going to walk a little bit more strategically. If you're walking really close to an area that has rocks and mulch and things on the ground, those might be a little bit more tempting. So you might have to relocate yourself slightly to set your puppy up for success by not grabbing things off the ground. Vary your types of exercises. Sometimes I do short walks or short little training sessions. And for me, short walks might be a block or two. A short training session literally might be the time that I use a commercial break or the amount of time that I have something microwaved and in the oven. I do a short public outing. So now's not the time to necessarily um, uh, to go to a big grocery store and do my full grocery list shopping. I might take them to a drugstore like Walgreens or CVS. I go in and I pick up or I fake grocery shop one item, have success, and then I get the heck out of there. I have a very short public outing so that they're successful and I don't have a bad trip with them. Again, I don't want them to have an elimination accident in a store. I don't want them to get overly tired. I don't want them to be difficult to manage. And I want it to be easy for myself to get out and leave if I need to. Play sessions, short places short play sessions are appropriate as well, but I don't necessarily always encourage, and I know that this one might come as a shocker to some people, play sessions with other puppies. Sometimes I think that can make our puppies pretty rowdy when they see their other buddies or see their other buddies that they're familiar with at class. So I tend to do more one-on-one play sessions, just myself and my puppy and some toys, rather than doing a whole lot of playing to tire them out with other puppies. I don't want them to be overly social butterflies. I want them to be able to manage their manners and offer appropriate behaviors when we're out and about. All right, this is a big one. Nail trimming and personal hygiene care, that husbandry care that we talk about. So of course our future leader dogs at this stage should be willingly accepting their body parts being examined. And so from nose to toes, we want to be able to run our fingers over them, look in their eyes and their ears, touch each toenail, and start trimming. And one of the tips that I really like that's in our timeline is maybe set up a goal for yourself that's very manageable. So maybe over the course of a couple of days, you're going to try to trim the nails on one foot. So pick one foot, and over 2 or 3 days throughout the day, you're just nipping the little tip of the toenail off and keeping it very successful. It's a lot harder for puppies to learn to hold still and be comfortable with having all um, four toenails trimmed. I'm sorry, four paw pads trimmed. And so it's easier for them to achieve if we do it in really small doses. So we take one little snip of a toenail and maybe we stop, we have a break, we have lunch, we do some other stuff. And in the evening, when our puppy gets quiet again, they're resting on our lap, we're hanging out here watching TV like you see in the picture, I go back and I trim another nail so that it's very, very comfortable for our puppy and we're not overstaying our welcome. Really continue to handle your puppy's paws and toes on a daily basis. Make it a part of cuddle time. Make it part of your TV watching time. And I really I go above and beyond with this. I'm not necessarily just touching their feet. I'm I'm acting out all of the pieces of what a toenail trim looks like. So I get closer because I know for me, I don't have the best vision. So for me, I have to lean in close and I have to study the nail for about 2 or 3 seconds, maybe 5 seconds before I'm going to trim it. So I do behaviors that are going to mimic that so that my puppy's comfortable with this entire process. Of course, we want to pair with something really enjoyable. I have a little baggie where I keep my nail trimming supplies. I make sure that I have that styptic powder in case I trim one too short. In my bag, I have my various types of nail trimming devices, whether it's a Dremel tool or whether it's the little baby snippers or whether it's adult snippers. And then I always keep some packets of peanut butter in there too, because I never want to do a nail trim without pairing it with something wonderful at the same time. All right. Oh, somebody says, I think this is Mary Haddis, with Goldens, I found I need to work on getting them used to paw hair trimming as well. Yeah, it's really tickly in between their paws. I have a Golden as well. And so trimming those hairs can be a little bit tricky for some of them. They're going to naturally jerk their paws away. And so start them early. I agree. That's a great thing to work on. Okay, so some other things that we're going to talk about, teaching touch. And of course, this is one of those what we call foundation behaviors or a foundation skill. With this, we know it's a gateway to many other training skills that we're going to teach our puppies. And so even though it's very simplistic, if you think about what this behavior entails, it's just offering a flat hand like you see in this picture. Our puppy goes up, they bump it with their nose. Right when they bump it with their nose, we say yes and we offer them a treat. And as simple as that is, we can use that in so many applications. We can use it to refocus our puppies after saying their name. We can use it to redirect them. We can use them to guide them from one location to another just by having them touch repeatedly and treating with each one. So really our opportunities of teaching this targeting skill are endless. And once you teach this, it's truly a gateway that leads you to so many other more sophisticated behaviors. And it's something that our guide dog mobility instructors, I promise you this, will definitely be using when our dogs return for training and they actually start their formal guide dog work. So it's something that your puppy will definitely want to have in their wheelhouse and start that early on. Again, a very simplistic behavior, but one that has endless things that we can use and link into. Okay, some more things with those darn needly teeth. Chewing. This will become more and more prevalent, especially around 9 weeks of age. Again, I'm sure that we can all get on the same bandwagon and talk about how difficult chewing can be and stealing items. And our next two slides are going to be kind of an overlap and talking about things that we need to do to help our puppies through this stage of life. I make sure that I am rotating my toys in and out of service. So as much and as tempting it is to buy a whole bunch of toys for our puppies and have 10, 15, 20 different toys for them to choose from in a toy box, I actually rotate them out so that they only have a couple of toys out. And then maybe once a week, I put the old toys away and I bring out some of those new toys. Because when you haven't seen something in a while, it becomes a new toy and it's just as exciting. So I like to circulate my toys in and out of rotation. I also make sure that I save special toys for special events. If I know that my dog is going to be doing, let's say, we have a lot of PR events. I know that that has been a big thing. We've been asking our puppy raisers to help us with PR events. If I know that my puppy's going to be occupied and they need to sit on their mat and be quiet, or maybe I'm going out to a nice place for dinner and I need to have my puppy with me, I'm going to save my brand new bone or great bone that I love for those times. So right now, I have been doing a lot of work where I am on the road with my Rhodesian Ridgeback and we go to different dog shows and things like that. And so I make sure that I have what I call hotel toys. Those are really special toys that she doesn't get at any other time. And I know that she would do anything for. So I've saved those in my bag. I actually keep them in my luggage so that when we're going to be in a hotel, that's the only time that she gets her hotel toy. It's brand new again. She hasn't seen it in a while and it's exciting. And I want it to be that potent and powerful when that comes out. So make sure that you're saving your toys for some of those situations.
Yeah.
Make sure that if your puppy is stealing items that you are trading with them. And I know it's going to feel like you are being manipulated. It's going to feel like your puppy is grabbing an item and coming right back to you to show you what they've gotten only so that they can get a treat. But I'm telling you, that is a-okay, and we are 100% okay with that. In fact, we actually encourage it. So we want our puppies to be willing to bring you items and drop them for a treat. That will keep them safe in the long run, especially when they have an item that can be harmful to their system in some way. So remember that to always trade for items. Make sure that you are not chasing your puppies around, trying to pry their teeth or their mouth open. I simply take a treat. I put it right at the tip of their nose when they have something in their mouth. They want to get my treat out of my hand. So what's naturally going to happen? They spit it out. They spit whatever item out that they have in their mouth. And then that's my opportunity to slip a couple of treats in and take that stolen item. Make sure you're setting your puppy up for success by keeping your house really clean. Easier said than done. I know I'm not perfect and my house can be messy at times, but the more that you leave shoes out or kids' toys out or kids' socks out, or you leave things on the counter like your mail or a casserole that's cooling for dinner, the more that it is going to be tempting for your puppy to grab those items or counter serve. So we want to set them up for success by not having those items be accessible. Also, don't scold your puppy for bringing you these items. We want them to come to you readily. We want them to show you what you have so that you're able to grab it and safely trade it. All right, so a couple of other pieces. One of the things that we really like to focus on at this age is set them up for some tethering skills. Again, this is going to be a skill that's going to be used quite a bit as a guide dog. And so we want them to be comfortable being attached to their leash that's anchored to an item, typically an inanimate item like a desk or a door or a couch or fill in the blank, whatever item you want to anchor them to. So sometimes I use their leader dog leash, but we know that they're pretty chewy at this age and that leather is darn tempting to chew on. And so I may swap that leader dog leash out for just really inexpensive like dollar store leash, and I use that as my tether. But I also want my puppies to learn to be nice and calm even if I step away for a couple of seconds. And so this is something that I get to practice quite a bit. I may walk into the other room or walk a couple of steps away, and I only return and approach my puppy when they're being calm. Now, what do you define as calm behavior? Well, that's really your choice. So for me, that might be closed mouth and still feet. Doesn't necessarily have to be sitting or down, but my puppy's not necessarily jumping on me when I approach. I'll take that as calm behavior, but you get to decide what calm appropriate behavior is. Um, Tie downs are always very useful for office situations. So as a leader dog goes out into the world and starts working with a client, they may be tethered to a desk. Eventually, I know at Leader Dog on our campus, as they are waiting for veterinary procedures, they're often on a tie down, just waiting for their turn. And so these are good skills for them to practice being on a tie down. Some other things that we want to talk about, going to a mat. Again, this is another one of those foundation skills that if I had to pick and choose those primary behaviors that I teach my puppies, one of them would be mat, because again, it can morph into so many other aspects of behavior. And I teach them very simply, lying on a mat equals treats. you go hang out there, and every now and then I'm just going to toss you a treat. And often the question I get, and I want to make sure that we take some time to address this, is do I mark every single time that I treat? And for mat training, I typically don't. If I'm sitting in a chair and I have my puppy on their mat right next to me and we're listening to something, maybe we're listening to a virtual training session, I don't necessarily mark every few minutes. I just simply drop a treat onto their mat and continue to reward them for hanging out there. Sometimes, and there's a technicality, marking can actually end a behavior. So rather than ending the behavior and having them get off the mat, I just want them to continue to hang out there. So I just simply toss a treat down onto their mat every few seconds or so. I like to use a very portable item for my mat, whatever you choose to use, because it's going to go everywhere with me, especially for the first 6 months. I want to be able to roll it up or fold it up and put it in my puppy bag and take it anywhere with me I may be, whether I'm at a seminar, whether I'm at a restaurant, whether I'm at church, whether I'm at puppy class, it doesn't matter, but I want it to be really, really portable. And I always want it to mean the same thing. I want my puppies to be magnetized to it. Once I put it down, I want them racing to get on their mat and lay down because they know what that behavior means. It's just like having a stop sign. If I see a stop sign when I'm driving, there's no question. It's not open for interpretation. I don't have to figure out what that means. It always means the same thing. Stop means stop, right? So Jody says suggestions for a mat. So there is a brand. If you are looking for a brand name, Jody, there's a brand called Mutt Mat, and we actually sell those in our Leader Dog gift shop. So if you want to go on our website, you can find those on the Leader Dog gift shop. You can also find them on Amazon as well. Sometimes I use a really inexpensive doormat. Sometimes I will go, or like a bath mat. I'll go to things like Family Dollar or Dollar General, something really. I'm talking like low quality, nothing fancy. I don't have to worry about it getting ruined, but sturdy enough so that my puppy's not going to be able to pull chunks off of it. So something like that. I will also take a full-size yoga mat, and I know if I fold that in thirds lengthwise, those make really good size mats. So the store Five Below sells nice yoga mats. They're pretty decent, and I cut them into thirds, and I use that square as my mat, and that's very portable as well. So those are some mat suggestions. If anybody else has a mat suggestion that they really love, feel free to put that in the chat room as well. All right, and last thing that we're going to talk about is making sure some savvy things that we're going to do with our food. I make sure for my kibbles, if I'm feeding my dog a total of probably at this stage, it's 1 cup 3 times a day. So 3 cups of food for the day. I actually put it in a container at the beginning of the day, and I'm using it as rewards all day long. I want a well-behaved puppy. I want to reward them for every behavior that they often offer, but I also don't want them to be overweight. So if I use their kibbles and their allotment of food, I can make sure that we are staying well within our calorie budget, but I'm also rewarding them constantly for all the behaviors that I like. Often I don't use a food bowl, but if I do use a food bowl, I make sure I feed in the crate so that my puppy again has a really good association with going in the crate. Or if I am going to feed out of an item, I often feed out of some sort of puzzle type toy, whether it's a Kong or whether it's the toys like a Kong wobbler or a kibble nibble, something that my puppy has to manipulate to get it to dispense food. It gives them an outlet for that oral need, that oral satisfaction, and it also allows for nice, appropriate behavior, something that they're going to do with their mouth that's more ideal for us, allows them to still take in their calories, be in their crate. So really is a nice vehicle to combine many different skills that we want them to offer as adult dogs. All right, guys, that is our 3rd-week timeline. If there are any other questions, feel free to unmute yourself or ask in the chat room. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this installment of our timelines, and we'll keep going on this series. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you guys next Thursday with another topic. Bye, everyone.